I recently posed the question on my community post asking you all which new metal I should rank, and I decided to go with the first 10 bands that people listed. This will be a ranking of debut albums. Some of these are not as well known as others, and there are other few bands here that didn't become well known until their second album. I'll get to those when I get to them. There were some of these that I knew and others I listened to for the first time. So this will be a worst to best ranking starting at number 10. So coming in number 10 is Papa Roach with Old Friends and Young Years. This was the first time I had ever listened to this album. I only knew them from their second album, Infest, and the ones after that. This one is very raw. The production almost sounds like a demo, and it was my least favorite of the albums on this list. I guess I couldn't get into it because it sounded very different than their later albums. There was a lot of heavy riffs. Jacoby Shaddix did much more screaming than rapping. This is the band trying to find their sound, which they did on their second album, Infest. To be honest, if Infest was on this list, it would be much higher. I read a review on SputnikMusic.com comparing this album to System of a Down, and I guess I could hear that a little, but it was nowhere near as good as the first System of a Down album. There was more rapping on this album, such as the song Liquid Diet, which was a rap metal song. I think if you're familiar with Papa Roach, you will notice that their other albums have a much more polished sound, and this was very raw. Some of you might like it better than their later stuff, probably more hardcore than new metal, but I guess my ranking is also subjective, so that's my number 10.
Is it possible for you to...
Coming in number 9 is American Head Charge with Trepanation. This band was recommended to me in my post, and it was my first time listening to them, and to be honest, I had never heard of them before. I think what I said about Papa Roach also applies here because I know their second album was a major label album. It was produced by Rick Rubin. I also noticed that on the second album, The War of Art, they re-recorded a lot of stuff from this album. So in theory, I probably could have included The War of Art on this list as opposed to this album, Trepanation, but I wanted to just rank debut albums. So for that reason, I'm talking about this. As for the production, it wasn't that great. The music was more industrial metal. I think they were more influenced by the band Ministry at this point in their career. To me, I thought they were like a combination of Slipknot and Ministry. There were lots of new metal guitar riffs as opposed to the thrash of Ministry, but there were also lots of sound samples used. There were also both rapping and harsh vocals, but there was a song called Never Get Caught, which sounded more like Ministry, with the thrashy guitar riffs and the sound samples. Overall, not too bad, but it comes in at number 9. At number 8 is TrustCompany with The Lonely Position of Neutral. This is another band I wasn't very familiar with. I heard the name before, and I'm surprised I didn't know about them because they came out in 2002. I was really into nu metal at that time. The debut was pretty popular. It was certified gold in the US. I think I recognized a few songs. The first song was Downfall. I recognized that one a little bit. I remember the chorus. I think this band was going for a Linkin Park Hybrid Theory type of sound, but without the rapping. That was what I got from this band. There was a song called Falling Apart, and it was one of the songs that had both the clean and distorted guitars with mixing the heavy and the light and the very melodic vocals, reminiscent of Chester Bennington. As for the rest of the album, there are lots of songs with heavy guitar riffs. What this band does well is that they have very memorable and catchy choruses in the songs, so they stick in your head for a while. And also the lyrics are very personal and emotional. So if you're somebody who listens to lyrics, they can be relatable. A lot of nu metal bands were very good at doing that. So I have this ranked at number 8 for now. But considering I'm new to the band, if I spend more time with it, it could go up. But that's where it's being ranked right now. Lord God, come and say. And number 7 is Skindred with Babylon. This was probably the most unique band on this list because they mix reggae music with metal music, and it's not something that's done a lot. The band has their own sound. Sometimes they sound like rap music, sometimes they sound like reggae and dubstep. Other times they sound more like nu metal, like Korn. So I think they were very original, but at the same time, I had a hard time getting into the band. So they get points for originality, but it doesn't have like the likability of the top 6 albums that will be coming after this. The first song was called Nobody. It wasn't too bad. It had some rapping and some heavy guitars, and it was kind of catchy. There were also a few short 30-second interludes, the kind you find on rap albums. There was a song, Start First, which shows off their heavier side and reminded me more of a hardcore style, something like Bad Brains. And then there was another song called We Want, which was more along the lines of a Bob Marley type of a reggae song, but with a rock aspect of it. And it kind of made it sound like either like 311 or Sugar Ray or something like that. And so the rest of the album, lots of variety on it. Some songs were hip-hop, some songs were reggae, some songs were metal, and some of it even sounded like The Police at times. That's what I thought. The band gets points for creativity and variety, but again, the other 6 albums were just better. Next is Spinechank with Strictly Diesel. This album came out in 1998. I believe they were discovered by Dino Casares of Fear Factory. I think they opened for them a few times. For that reason, this is more of a heavy nu metal and industrial metal band, similar to either Fear Factory or Korn, or in other words, one of the more extreme bands on the list. They have some electronic elements in their sound. For example, the song Stove Bolt begins with electronic sounds and gets heavy. It's both melodic and clean vocals. There was a song Shine Box, had more of a Deftones type of sound. Next song, Where We Fall, was more extreme, along the lines of Slipknot, and then the rest of the songs have lots of heavy guitar riffs, lots of harsh vocals, some screams, a little bit of rap, mostly metal. They also have a cover of While My Guitar Gently Weeps by the Beatles, and there were some other songs that had more electronic elements along the lines of Nine Inch Nails. There were times when the vocalist tries to sound like Chino Moreno of Deftones. So, for example, the song Gray has those types of vocals. Basically, the album is a big mix of different nu metal influences, but they had a pretty good album. That's why I have it ranked right here. At number 5 is a self-titled album by Sevendust, and this one came out in 1997. I think it's pretty popular. They had some songs in MTV Celebrity Deathmatch, and some songs were used in a Mortal Kombat movie. I was never a big fan of this band, but this debut album is pretty good. The album sounds a lot more raw than their other ones. You can hear it in the production. I think this band has one big advantage over the other bands is that they have a really good vocalist named LaJean Witherspoon. The first 2 songs in the album are called Black, and the other one is called Bitch, and they're both pretty heavy songs. On the second song, Bitch, you can hear more of the cleaner vocals in the first part and the heavier in the second part. Then there was track 3 called Terminator. This had a cool drum and bass guitar intro, some sludgier guitar riffs. There was a little bit of rap in the song, and they used a Rage Against the Machine-like guitar tone. The band also has a softer side that could be heard on the song Prayer, and it had a funky sound. It reminded me a little bit of like Lenny Kravitz, but with more of a metal edge. And then that song had heavy and light parts, and showing up the versatility of LaJean Witherspoon. I think it was a really good debut album. I'm surprised it's not ranked higher, but the next 4 albums were just a little bit better. At number 4, I have Chevel with Point Number 1. I was surprised to see this that was their debut album because I'd always thought that their next album, Wonder What's Next, was their debut, but this band has a similar situation as Papa Roach, except this debut album was really good. The band has always kept a consistent sound, and this one sounds much like their other albums. It's kind of like the band Tool, but more with a nu metal sound. The album opens with a song called Open, and it's just one. Starts off with lots of heavy guitars, powerful drums, going into the title track. It sounds more like their traditional sound. And then there's a track called Prove to You that has sludgier sounds and a slower pace, and has lots of atmosphere and noise, and they have a few songs that are on the softer side. They have a song like Mia, where they use more melody and go for more of a post-grunge sound. Then other songs have lots of feedback, and they use stop-start guitar riffs. And another song called Anticipation, it sounded like some heavy grunge music, maybe something along the lines of the band Bush. Other songs have more of a cleaner and atmospheric sound, such as the song called Dos. And they have songs where they like to get heavy and focus on the pummeling guitar riffs. I think this band knew what they wanted to sound like right from the beginning. Lots of heavy and clean parts, but overall, it was a good debut. I was not sure what to expect with this album. My first time listening to it, I discovered this band with their second album, Wonder What's Next, which is probably better than this, but this one still ranks at number 4. Coming in at number 3 is Mudvayne with LD50. I thought this album was very solid. In my opinion, they sound like Slipknot, but with a funky bass guitar. Like, that's what I thought of them. They have a similar image too. Kind of evokes a lot of dark and deranged sounds, and it's similar to Slipknot. But the big hit from this album was Dig. The song has the funky bass guitars I mentioned, and it was just heavy new metal that's similar to Slipknot, as I keep mentioning. But you have other songs like Internal Primates Forever that have the big down-tuned guitar riffs, and that song in particular was more reminiscent of Korn, especially in the vocals, which were a cross between Jonathan Davis and Corey Taylor. There was a song called -1, which was a darker ballad, had some clean singing, more an atmospheric sound, and they had a song called Death Blooms, and it had more heavy, pummeling guitar riffs that just knock you over. That song incorporated some harsh vocals and screams, along with clean singing, and the aforementioned bass guitar that plays a major role in all of the songs. Some more darker songs, such as the song Cradle, that was somewhat reminiscent of the band Korn, but they added their own flavor by mixing the soft and heavy sections. Then a song called Nothing to Gain, where the last word of the title is G-E-I-N, so the song's about the infamous murderer Ed Gein, who was also the subject matter of Slayer's Dead Skin Mask. Overall, a solid album. It's kind of long, it's over an hour, so despite that, there's not much filler on it, so for that reason I have it ranked on number 3. Coming in number 2 is Drowning Pool with Sinner. I need to go into a little history with this band because it's important, and that's why it's such a good album, because the album was released on June 5th, 2001, but unfortunately the singer, Dave Williams, died from heart disease a little over a year later, so this was the only album with him. I think if he had lived, this band would have been much bigger because it's a great album, one of the best nu metal albums of the early 2000s in general. This has their big hit called Bodies, and the song is still played often today. The first 3 songs in the album were singles. It was Sinner, Bodies, and Tear Away. Now the song Tear Away is also great because Dave Williams has a really great vocal performance. The song was written with a stripped down approach, and that made the vocals stand out. The song had a catchy chorus, but after the 3 singles at the front half of the album, there's still lots of great songs. So the song All Over Me has powerful drum beats and chunky guitar riffs. The chorus of the song might be simple but very catchy. The song called Reminded has some cool guitar effects in the intro with some awesome palm muted guitars in the verse section, and Dave Williams screams the words, reminded of you in the chorus. Then there was a song called Mute that had some very personal lyrics, a very spacey and atmospheric sound. The lyrics might be repetitive, but Dave Williams uses different vocal styles throughout the song, and he keeps things interesting. Overall, one of my favorite albums of the genre, so for that reason I have it ranked at number 2. At number 1, I have Static X with Wisconsin Death Trip, another band that had a great vocalist, Wayne Static, who died too early. Fortunately, he was able to record a few more albums with the band before he passed. But in my opinion, I think this is the best album, and for that reason, I have it at number 1. For me, it was a really close call between this one and the Drowning Pool album. The album has Push It, and that has a lot of industrial sounds and beats and the vocals of Wayne Static, and the song also has a very infectious chorus. There's some other great songs, such as I'm With Stupid, and mixes some heavy guitars and spacey electronic sounds. Bled for Days has pounding bass lines and a very mechanical sounding drum beat, which has Wayne Static delivering a great vocal performance. They have a breakup song called Love Dump. It has some of their signature guitar riffs as well as electronic sounds. As for the rest of the album, the songs are very memorable. I think the one thing that makes this band stand out is their use of electronics, which adds another layer to each song. The use of electronics adds a unique atmosphere throughout the whole album. Although Wayne Static is the star of the album, the other members do have a lot to give. The drumming is awesome. Ken Jay keeps a steady rhythm throughout the songs. There's the bass player, Tony Campos, and his bass is always audible, and at times you can hear it very well. And you can hear the bass playing, especially on the song Trance is the Motion, and that's one of the better songs on the second half of the album. Overall, a great debut album, worthy of number 1. And that's all. That's the second edition of Nu Metal Debut Albums Ranked. I still have more of your suggestions from my posts, so there will be a part 3 in the future. In the meantime, check out the first video, in which I stick right there. Please like this video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you're not already. Hit the bell for notifications so you can get updated every time I release a video. You can find me on Facebook and TikTok. Links are in the video description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.